Hey party people, Techno here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at another one of the challenges from this year's Cyber Apocalypse CTF from Hack the Box. In this video we're specifically going to be looking at the Stop, Drop, and Roll challenge, which is classified as a very easy challenge under the Miscellaneous category. This is another one where we spin up a Docker container and we connect to that Docker container over netcat. So let's go ahead and do that. And we can see that the response that we receive is basically description or instructions for a video game. This is the fray, the video game. And the message that we get is, welcome, this video game is very simple. You are a competitor in the fray, running the gauntlet. I will give you one of three scenarios, gorge, freak, or fire. You have to tell me if I need to stop, drop, or roll. If I tell you there's a gorge, you need to send back stop. If I tell you there's a freak, you need to send back drop. If I tell you there's a fire, you need to send back roll. Sometimes I will send back more than one, like this, gorge, fire, freak. In this case, you need to send back stop, roll, and drop. Now, one thing that's not explicitly being called out here, but something we ought to take notice to, is when it is sending these multiple, I'm going to refer to them as challenge. They say scenarios, I'm going to call it a challenge, of gorge, fire, and freak. The way that we're receiving that is that these are separated by a comma and a space. However, note that in the response that this expects, this is actually a hyphenated response. So that's something that, getting ahead of ourselves here, but we'll have to accommodate for whenever we are sending back our responses in an automated fashion. And then we have this prompt, are you ready? Yes or no. Presumably we select no, and it's going to close down the netcat connection, which it does, with a message of that's a shame. So let's go ahead and reconnect, and let's see what the output of yes is. So we get a couple lines here. We get, okay, then let's go, and freak, and what do you do? So in this case, following the instructions, we would send back that drop response, and we immediately get prompted again with another challenge, fire, gorge, freak. So in this case, we would want to send back roll. And remember, using that hyphenated output, roll, stop, and drop ought to be the appropriate one. Actually, no, because I did an underscore there, we died, but that kind of helps us already see what happens when we send an incorrect answer. Now, if you had enough time on your hands, we can assume that eventually, by answering these things correctly, you will get the flag, and that is a method to do this, although probably not the desired method. Much like the character challenge that we looked at, we can assume that this is going to go on for quite a long time, so really the only practical way of going about this is to automate this using something like a script. And things that we're going to have to do are select the challenge, pull that out, account for that, construct our answer appropriately, and then also account for that difference between this comma space separation and the hyphenated separation. We got a couple other things that we have to address here if we're going to automate this. That is the fact that we have this introductory instruction message to which we have a completely different kind of response before we get into this challenge and then answer sort of scenario, which we would hope ultimately ends up in receiving the flag after enough correct answers are submitted. So with all of that in mind, we can start to build a script. And in my case, I constructed a Python script to handle this that I just simply called stop, drop, roll.py. And I'm using the library nclib here as well as the time module, and nclib being a kind of a wrapper around sockets with some additional functionality and simplifying that syntax so we can make that netcat connection. And really what we have here is we are down in my main, we can see defining what our server is. So here just using a tuple to say this is the IP address and port of the container. And then we get into defining our netcat connection by using the nclib.netcat.netcat method, and connect equals the server we defined up here. We're going to set the timeout to none because we don't want the netcat connection to prematurely close before we receive that flag. So this is just an additional, let's say, peace of mind element to this to make sure that there's no timeout set on this. Now, we have two messages basically that we have to account for. The first is what I'll call the intro, and that's all of the instructions that we're receiving up until the point where we receive that "Are you ready?" message, and we have to reply with either a yes or a no. Of course, no isn't going to get us anywhere. We're going to reply with a yes. So here we're using the netcat, the nclib receive until method to receive all of the output from that netcat server up until we get this prompt for "Are you ready?" And at that point, I will be printing all of this to screen. Basically, this was a troubleshooting measure when building the script just to make sure everything was behaving as intended. But then also, it gives us the benefit of seeing the output whenever we run this as well. So we're going to send back a yes with a new line to get past that instruction set, at which point we're going to start receiving those challenges. And that's where we're going to go into this iterative loop. So we have what we're receiving is the message. We're going to use that receive until method again to receive everything up until the what do you do prompt. That is what preceded us having to send back our answer before we could move on. So we want to grab all of that output, which initially will also include that's let's go or get ready, let's go line, whatever it was. But then also it's going to receive the challenge of stop, drop, or rather free, fire, gorge, whatever it happens to be. And then the what do you do? Print that out. And then we're going to construct our response using this create response function. Basically just looking through the message, we're going to split this into all its individual words. And for each of those, we are going to look for any instance of gorge, freak, or fire and append that to a new list called challenge. So I'm basically just reconstructing the actual challenge itself and eliminating all of the additional words and characters that are irrelevant to us. We would just want that gorge, freak, fire. And then once we join this all together, we're basically going to be reconstructing the initial challenge with the comma and the space separators in there as well. So then we can take that challenge and we can use the replace method to replace any instance of gorge with stop, any instance of freak with drop, and any instance of fire with roll, and then also that comma space separator with the hyphen that our answer requires in that hyphenated response. All of this will then be appended with a new line, and we can return that back, to which we will send that response back to the netcat server. The time module here is simply to give a little bit of grace period between receiving those messages and sending back the answer, just to make sure that all of that happens in a predictable manner. So we can go ahead and run this to see how this all works out. What it will hopefully do is result in us getting the flag. So I'll jump into the terminal here and let's go ahead and initiate the script. You can see that we got the output of the intro and successfully moved past that by submitting that yes response. And now we're going through this iteration of receiving those challenges. We can even see the challenge that is reconstructed from the response. We get the what do you do prompt, and then we are sending back that appropriate answer. So as this iterates, which this is going to take quite a bit of time, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video until we get to the interesting part, our goal, which is hopefully going to be the flag for this challenge. Okay, so that definitely ran for far longer than I would want to sit there and manually type all of that out. It'd probably go slightly insane. But you can see that that did in fact work according to plan. And ultimately what happens is we get a nice message here. Fantastic work. Well, thank you very much, terminal. And then we get the flag, this hack the box, like I will stop, drop, and roll my way out. So with that, that concludes this challenge, also concludes this video, and thank you very much for watching, everybody. I do truly appreciate it. Till next time, take care, and I will catch you later.